Hi everyone, welcome to the second video. Today we're going to be looking at our first kind of program. Again, I'm in the same IDE as the last video, so I'm using Mu. However, there are some really good online ones available, and I'll put a link to those in the video. So just to remind you of what we've got an IDE, and here we've got some hash symbols, and we've got all of our keywords. And remember, none of this here will actually affect the code. So let's get into it and actually start doing some proper programming. So if you remember from the last lesson, we said the sequence was really important. So it has to go in a certain order. So I'm going to think about the first thing I want to happen in my really simple program, which is just going to be telling a story. So I'm going to start with the function that we looked at last lesson, which was the print function. And with all functions, we need open and closed brackets like that. And inside those brackets, I'm going to put some quotation marks, again, one of either side. And in the middle, I'm going to put what's called a string, which is just a sequence of characters. And again, we'll talk more about that in another lesson. So I'm just going to start off with once upon time. And then that's all I'm going to do at the moment. Print is going to output this. So I'm going to run it. And I should see down here, it's outputted then. But what's some really common errors? So I mentioned again about syntax, and syntax I accidentally misspelt there, funny enough. So syntax means kind of like the punctuation of programming. So you notice that I've been doing certain things. So I've been including brackets and I've been including quotation marks. So let's just get rid of one of those on purpose for the minute. And we're going to run the same thing again. And here we get a syntax error. So it's an error because the program can't run. And it's just telling me there's an invalid syntax. And it actually tells me which line the error is on. So the error is on line 9. And it tells me where to look for it in my program. And even here, it tells me what file it's in. Again, we're going to do debugging more in another video. So that's a really common syntax error. If I just put that back on, you can now see that the program will run. If I get rid of the quotation mark, again, I'm going to get the same thing. And there are different types of errors, but we won't go too much into them for the moment. So for today, you just need to know to include brackets and quotations. It has to be in that order. So we're just going to keep going with this for the moment. And I'm going to put once upon a time, there was a boy named Jim. I'll run it again, and you'll notice it's going to run line 9, then it's going to run line 10, and you can see it going in that order in the console down here. So I'm actually going to introduce you to something else now called importing a module, just to make this a little bit more interesting, because you might be thinking that's a little bit boring. There's not a lot going on there for the minute. So what we can do is we can import something from a module. Now I've typed the word from, and again, notice the syntax coloring has gone green there. And I'm going to say from time. Now this is a module. Think of it as like a bank of resources, almost like if you're into your gaming, you might have some DLC, so downloadable content. You can import it into your game. It's a little bit like that. It's like you're going into a library and you're going into somewhere with lots of different functions that you didn't have before. So we're going to go from time and we're going to import. Again, import has come up in green, and we're going to import sleep. So we're importing a function, a different function now, not just like print. That was one function we've learned about. We're importing a different function, and we have to go into the time module to get that function. So that's all this is doing here. Now the order in which it happens is really important. So I'm going to use the sleep function, and all it needs is just sleep brackets. I'm going to put a number, and it actually tells me here what's happening. I'm just going to put the number of seconds I want there to be a pause. So I'm going to type in 2 and close my bracket, and then I'm going to run it. And look what happens now. So I run it, and then hopefully you've noticed it output line 11. It did a 2-second pause, and then it output line 13, and that was it. So that's all it does. What's really important here, remember that sequence is really important. So if I take this line of code here and I put it below after all of this, this function now will not work. So if we try and run it, we're going to get an error because it doesn't know what sleep actually means. It's like you're asking it to do the sleep function, but you haven't told it what the sleep function is or where to get it from. And actually, we need to get it from this line of code here. This is what brings it in to our program. So we can do this with lots of different things. So And then I'm just going to do a second line. Then yes, I have rickrolled you. But you can then just do a lyric to a song. So your challenge for this little video is just to pick some lyrics from a song, just do a verse or a chorus and see how much of that you can make. Your goal should be to output at least 5 lines of code with a pause in between each line. And there's a bit of a challenge. If you know a song very well, you can think about how many seconds there would be between each line and try and get it accurate so it gets it in time to the actual song.